Hey Omies, I'm Ewashkiw from Adventure Yoga, and this is a yoga pose breakdown for Adho Mukha Svanasana, also known as downward facing dog. Please unroll your mat, and I'll see you there in just a few seconds. For this yoga pose breakdown of downward facing dog, we will start on our hands and knees. So let's go there. Have your knees about hip distance apart. For now, you can place your feet flat behind you. We're going to really look at what's happening with your hands. Line up your wrists so that the middle of your wrist is as wide as the outer edges of your shoulders. If that's hard for you to imagine, you can think about a line or a string dropping down from the outside of your shoulder and hanging down, and you want it to come down to the middle of your wrist. So it's not the outer edge of your wrist, it's not the inner edge of your wrist. It's really arm straight up and down out of your shoulder joint. But then we also want to have your wrists parallel the top edge of your mat. So it's not hands turning in, it's not hands turning out. But if you think about these bones at the front of your wrist, you want those lined up roughly parallel with the top of your mat. Sometimes you'll hear the instruction of index finger pointing forward or middle finger pointing forward. But I want your hands spreading. So I want your fingers spreading wide, your wrists parallel to the top of your mat, and the middle of your wrists as wide as the outer edges of your shoulders. That's our foundation set up for our hands for downward facing dog. Then straighten your left leg back behind you and tuck your toes under. Push down through your hands, push down through your toes on your left foot, and step your right leg straight back behind you. Tuck your toes under. And then there are a couple of length markers we're going to use. Bring your shoulders over your wrists and your heels over the balls of your feet. That's the length of your stance for downward facing dog. So if your heels are back behind the balls of your feet and your shoulders are over your wrist, your stance is a little too short. So you'll want to walk your feet out a little bit. If you've got your shoulders over your wrists, but your heels are in front of your balls of your feet and you're really up on your tiptoes, walk your feet forward a little bit. We want your heels over the balls of your feet and your shoulders over your wrists. Bend your knees a little bit. Push down and forward with your hands and then start to lift your butt up. Move your hips back, lift up through your butt, and straighten your legs. Stretch your heels back and down. If when you straighten your legs, your back rounds a lot, just bend your knees. That's going to take some of the strain out of your hamstrings, and you can work on opening your hamstrings during your yoga practice. For your downward facing dog, I want you to work to find the natural curves of your spine. So if when you straighten your legs, it forces your back to round, just bend your knees and make that your downward facing dog until you can do it with straight legs and a straight spine. That just takes time. Push your hands down, stretch out through your shoulders, and move your chest back towards your thighs. But at the same time, move the front of your ribs back towards your spine. Lift up through your hips and stretch your heels back and down. You can do all of that work with straight legs or with bent knees. And it's all downward facing dog. It's just your downward facing dog for today. It might look different than mine. Push down through the four corners of your hands. Stretch out through your shoulders. Then think about your biceps. Turn your biceps to face each other, but then keep going and turn them up towards the ceiling a little bit. Stretch out of your shoulders, lift up through your hips, stretch your heels back and down. Bring your ears in line with your arms so that you can find the natural curves for your neck. Stretch through the top of your head and all the sides of your neck. Lift through your sit bones again Stretch your heels back and down again. Engage your knees to engage your quads. Downward facing dog. Adho Mukha Svanasana. Lift your heels to shift forward. Bring your knees down to the ground. Place your feet flat. Bring your feet together. Sit back on your heels and fold forward to take a child's pose. It's nice to take a little break after doing all of that work in down dog. Thanks for joining me for this yoga pose breakdown of Adho Mukha Svanasana, or downward facing dog. This is a pose we see all the time in yoga class, but have you ever really stopped to think about it until today? There's so much going on in this pose, and I hope this yoga pose breakdown really helped you decipher the pose a little bit more. If you want to find out even more about down dog, I've written a whole blog post about it, and this video is part of that. You can find the blog post on my website, adventureyogaonline.com, and there's a direct link to the blog post for downward facing dog in the description for this video below. If you're looking for a full class to do right now, here's a 22-minute full body stretch I recommend. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel yet, just click up there on my picture to subscribe. If you've got any questions, please put them in the comments below, and I will see you on the mat really soon. Thanks, OMies.